I'd like to
Yeah.
say a few
So
things.
now let's
Yeah,
cover that as well.
yeah,
Well,
because there's something again about understanding numbers, understanding the balance. When you talk to
so
young
let's
analysts,
dive into your view on that IEA. And I think I want to close off with a question. What could surprise us in
mm,
2026 oil market? So take your own IEA because I know
yeah,
it creates a noise. So I think it's a good opportunity. You spent so many years, long years
mhm.
at IEA. I think this may be a fantastic opportunity to understand the numbers.
I think number one, there are a lot of people taking very cheap shots at the IEA
Mm.
because they represented the forecast as saying the IEA is now joined OPEC in its view that oil demand is not going to peak, etc. Unfortunately, the IEA for the longest, well, for 5, 6 years, stopped producing what's called the current policy forecast. So they had two forecasts, what's one called the steps and one for net zero. So these forecasts, people do qualify them as forecasts, and they didn't understand that what the IEA was trying to show to its member governments and anyone interested in energy transition, that if you want to get to net zero, you have to work backwards from the outcome to the dynamic that leads you to the outcome. So if you're going to net zero by 2050 or whatever, of course, fossil fuel use is going to decline. It has to. For the equation to balance, you're going to have to knock off coal. You're going to have to knock off oil. You're going to have to stunt the growth of natural gas and LNG to get to the outcome. If that's the outcome, you work backward to see how you transition towards it. Thus, the calls by the executive director on occasion to stop all investment in the oil and gas sector. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't say that we had to do that today. What I mean, the thing is to obtain the outcome, that's what you have to do. And the
It's a
same thing
reverse
goes
engineer,
exactly.
right?
It's exactly that reverse engineering from the outcome, what plausible or realistic paths we need to take. Now, with the current policy scenario back in place now, and maybe that's people could argue because the US administration has changed. So they're now showing this. And so the current policy scenario is as things are today with no new policies, right? Where can oil demand go, right? And so suddenly their oil demand is no longer peaking in 2029. It keeps on growing. It hits a certain level and plateaus for a long time, right? And then you go, well, that's fine. But you have to understand these forecasts and what they rest on and their hypothesis and what they're trying to tell you. The IEA advises its member countries and says, so if you want to go to net zero,
This is what.
this is how it's done. It's not our forecast of oil demand, it's what has to happen to achieve that net zero. But if you take that away and you just say, here's your current policies, I exclude any future policy because I don't actually know whether or not you're going to be implementing it or not. Well, therefore, oil demand keeps on growing. There's Once you understand what it is about, then these things about the IEA suddenly calling, they never stop. The one default, that the one thing you could reproach them for is not having published the current policy scenario alongside the two others for 5 or 6 years. That I
Mm.
think believe was a mistake. But otherwise, they're not like doing a U-turn. They're just now showing you what was something there that was there all along.
Maybe it's a good move that if they had published that in the past, already, I think publishing it now kind of pushes people to understand scenarios as reverse engineering for things to happen versus if you don't do anything and based on what is going to happen now, this is what it looks like. It's still not a forecast, right?
Yes, yes.
Forecast is when you make very active assumptions about the future, then I can say that it could be a forecast.
Yeah.
Well, this debate on energy transition, I feel, Harry, is a perfect recipe for volatility, the divergence of views. And I see
Oh, yes.
perfect 10 years, whatever years of perfect trading opportunities sort of going forward. But let's not go to 10 years, 2026. What may surprise us in the markets?